Hello, Dodger fans. Welcome to the Blue Dugout Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Pacheco, and today we're going to be talking Dodger baseball. We'll be reviewing the Dodgers versus Nationals series that just took place. Unfortunately, it just wasn't the best series for LA. Dropped the ball pretty badly out there. Also coming off of a lost series against Philadelphia. We go into the Nationals series, and unfortunately, it didn't go much different. So let's jump right into it. So to start off, we got our starting nine. Of course, Ohtani starting up at the top at DH. Betts shortstop. Tommy Edman at center field. Yes, Andy Pages has not been having the best games of his career. I mean, he's been dropping balls left and right in center field. He hasn't been hitting the ball very well. Yes, he did have 2 home runs in this series. However, looks like he had to sit out a game. Teoscar Hernandez in right field. Will Smith behind the plate, who I personally love. Will Smith is probably one of my favorite catchers in the major leagues. Defensive and offensively, I'd have him on my team any day. Kike Hernandez, of course, at first base. Max Muncy at third. Miguel Rojas at second base. Now, this is kind of where it gets a little iffy for me because I would have personally put Edman at second base and kept Pages in center field. Let him get his reps. Let him have, his failures. Baseball's a game of failure at the end of the day. Let him do his thing. And then we have Chris Taylor in left field. Chris Taylor was actually very impressive. Had his first hit in this first game in this series. So wasn't mad about him playing left field. Mackenzie Gore gets to start against the Dodgers with his third start of the season, the 2025 season. Has an 0-1 record with a 2.45 ERA. Now, obviously, that's not terrible to start the season. This is my first game watching him pitch, and to be honest with you, did a pretty good job against us. The fact that we got the win. He had 6 innings pitched, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 1 walk, 7 Ks. In my opinion, that's pretty damn good. Brings his ERA up to 2.65. Then he goes up against, of course, we know Dustin May, one of the best pitchers in baseball, one of the better pitchers for the Dodgers. Unfortunately, hasn't been the healthiest, but did come back against the Braves on Tuesday, where he only gave up 1 hit and 1 unearned run. So these 2 pitchers were pretty good matchup in my opinion. One of them being a guy that put up the numbers that he did, and another one that hasn't been in baseball for, about 2 years, almost 2 years is what it was. So Dustin May actually finished the game with 6 innings pitched, 3 hits, 3 walks, 1 K, with only an ERA of 8.2. However, those 3 walks, in my opinion, were really what did it for us because, as we can tell, as soon as he got those guys on base, those guys scored and ended up coming right back in to score. That unfortunately hurt us at the end of the day. One thing I will say about the Dodgers, though, in this series, or at least in this first game, bats were definitely cold. I mean, from the start, and I'm not going to say all the way to the end because we did have a little bit of a momentum builder at the end, but from the start of this game, it just didn't look like the Dodgers were in it in terms of hitting. As you can see, that first inning where we went down 1-2-3 with 3 of our biggest hitters. Not a good start. We should have at least gotten a guy on base. It's baseball. Once again, baseball is a game of failure. We're not going to win every game. But once again, we just looked like we didn't even want to come out and play baseball that first game. One thing I can say I love about Dustin May, though, too, is that he is a phenomenal pitcher in terms of movement, location, really what he has in his pitches. I mean, you look at every single pitch that he throws, it stays in the tunnel of a fastball and then moves in a different direction. You got a fastball going one way. A 2-seam going one way, a curveball going the opposite way. That's slider. I mean, he's just a dominant pitcher. Once again, the only thing that really hurt him today were those walks. As soon as those walks came up, it just didn't look too good for him. Now, there is one part in this game, too, where I do want to bring up that, just kind of wasn't my favorite. It was early on in the game. We had a chance to build some momentum off of it. Will Smith throwing the ball down to second base, and Miggy Rowe completely dropping the ball. Miggy Rowe, you got to have that ball, kid. You got to have that ball. That ball was thrown right there to you. Wasn't a one hop, wasn't a short hop. Got to catch that ball. One thing also I will say about this is that the Dodgers definitely did have some solid defense at some points. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, with that drop ball, that's not a form of solid defense. However, there were other times where they were, fielding ground balls, making double plays as best they could. So some things we can take away from this first game is that Shohei Ohtani actually was only 1 hit away, the double away from the cycle, which would have been a pretty big momentum builder, in my opinion, in those later innings when he did get the hit, the single. Could have been a double, and it could have really built some momentum. Chris Taylor actually got his first hit in this game. Wasn't a big hit, wasn't anything ginormous, but it's a hit. At the end of the day, I'll take it. After the kind of start that he's had, the last season that he's had, I'll take it. Chris Taylor, good job, kid. Have a night. Tommy Edman, Mookie Betts, Will Smith, late game singles to try to build some momentum. Unfortunately, it just didn't go their way at the end, but I see how they got going late. Now, that's what I mean by the Dodgers looked like they really didn't show up to play. These hits came later in the game at points where they just didn't really mean anything at this point. You got to get these hits earlier in the game where it really means something. Once again, those walks from Dustin May really is what hurt him at the end of the day, and that's what got the Nats to take game 1 from us. Some negatives that I can point out as well. Kike Hernandez, Miguel Rojas go 0 for. Anthony Banda Sorry, ladies, your boy didn't show up this game. Literally only had .1 inning pitched, 3 hits in that, half an inning, 2 earned runs, gives up a game-breaking 2-run home run. That 2-run home run that Anthony Banda gave up later in the game definitely was a momentum builder for the Nationals and a complete momentum killer for the Dodgers. Anthony Banda's got to show up. He's one of the best pitchers, in my opinion, and Dodgers one of the best closers. In fact, I think he was at one point leading the league in saves. Yes, it's very early in the season, but that's still something to say. The Dodgers, of course, have these guys and are very good players, but of course, that means that every single team is coming for them. Every single one of these games is like Game 7 of the World Series. Every single team is coming to prove their worth against the Dodgers because of the type of team they are. Unfortunately, we lose Game 1. Nationals go on to take that one. All right, so here we are getting into Game 2 of this series. Unfortunately, it just didn't go much different than Game 1. In fact, in my opinion, went way worse. We scored less runs. Pitchers were giving up more runs. Yes, Robleski went a little bit later into this game, but he's no Dustin May. Unfortunately, he did not even put up nothing comparable to the same numbers as Dustin May. In fact, just went complete opposite. So let's jump into this one right now. Like I said, Robleski getting the start for the Dodgers. This is his first start of the 2025 season. He was brought up in 2024, had a couple starts then, but this is his first 2025 season, or ended the 2024 season actually with a 5.70 ERA and a record of 1-2. So he comes into this first game, once again, not looking too hot. In my opinion, you rewind back to spring training when Robleski was out there. Once again, it is spring training, but the dude was lights out. He was phenomenal in spring training, a couple games that I watched of him. Now, unfortunately, this game wasn't the same. The Nationals actually had a rookie for their starter, Brad Lord. This was only his 4th appearance of the 2025 season. Had a 2.5 ERA going into this game. His line was 3 innings pitched, 2 hits, 0 earned runs, 2 walks, and 4 Ks. One of those Ks being his first ever Major League K was none other than Shohei Ohtani. He strikes out Shohei Ohtani to open up this game. Now, in my opinion, that is such a huge momentum killer for us. Probably why they got off to this hot start and just did not stop. He strikes him out, and from then on, just lights out. Once again, we got less runs in this game. We just really did not show up this second game. It went way worse. We didn't show up the first game and hit, and then we show up Game 2 thinking like, right, let's build some momentum. Let's get something going. Unfortunately not. Mookie Betts gets a hit to, open up their top half of the first inning, but unfortunately it's deflated by Tommy Edman getting that fly ball to right field, and then Teoscar Hernandez pops one up right there to the infield. We leave a guy on base. That cannot happen. That is one thing this series has shown, is the minute we leave guys on base, clearly no one's going to score. The only way you win a ball game is scoring more runs. If they're going to score 8, we need to score 9, 10, 11. We cannot sit here and only put up 2. Once again, bats were completely dead in this second game. Yes, more guys got hit, less guys went over, but we didn't score runs. It does not matter if you get to first, second, third base, guys. We need to get home. Here's a play where we have Max Muncy up the plate after Lord walks 2 guys, gets 2 guys on base. Max Muncy comes up with a 3-0 count. And of course, anybody who plays baseball knows that a 3-0 count means that a fastball down the middle is probably coming next. Well, Max Muncy didn't swing at that fastball and ended up swinging at a ball over his head to strike out in that at bat. Look, I love Max Muncy, but that right there shows that he's just not the same Max Muncy that we used to see back in the day. Max Muncy used to be a phenomenal hitter, in my opinion, and I loved Max Muncy in the lineup. Now, not too sure about him. He's very inconsistent. As you can see, he's had a couple moments in, that moment against the Braves where he hit that double, ended up coming back and winning that game with a walk-off. So now having an at-bat like this, not an ideal at-bat, not the way we need to be playing this game. And as we can see, it's just not Dodger baseball. These guys are known for, of course, hitting home runs, doing the whole 9, trotting around the bases, the whole seed celebration, but we just didn't see it in this series. On the flip side as well, Robleski just did not have a phenomenal start today. Robleski was just very, very cold. Unfortunately, did not have the start that we were expecting. Guy was phenomenal in the Cactus League, did a great job there, but then shows up here and gives this type of performance. I mean, leaving balls over the plate, allowing guys to constantly get hits, allowing guys to even get hits all the way deep into the outfield where balls were caught, but they're deep enough to where guys can tag up from second, third base, get into scoring position, score from there. So he's got to learn to keep the ball down. He can't keep throwing pitches over the plate. You can't leave pitches over the heart of the plate. It's just not the way you can pitch in the major leagues, obviously. These guys are phenomenal hitters, which, by the way, we're obviously Dodger fans here and we love the Dodgers and bleed blue all the way, but I gotta give credit where credit's due. Hats off to James Wood for having up the night that he did on Tuesday. Had a perfect night and hit 2 home runs. Dude had a phenomenal game, but yeah, that's just not the kind of ideal game that we want to have. Hats off to you, James Wood. You did a great job. But that's how Dodgers got to play the game as well. We just have to show up with bats hotter. We have to show up with a little bit more momentum. However, I will, kind of give the Dodgers a little bit of a side with them on this. They obviously play in LA, Southern California, in the middle of spring, summer, and a little bit into fall. Not very cold over here. It was freezing during this series, so, I will give it to them on that. Kike Hernandez, this is the first time I've ever seen a Major League ball player play with a hoodie on underneath his jersey. Shohei Ohtani, the GOAT, Mr. Gotani, ends up extending his on-base streak to 28 games with this one. This dates back to September of last year, so I guess, we can take a positive out of that. Ohtani doing something. Of course, there it is, the name Ohtani that we all know. There was a moment as well, and a little bit later in the game, where they brought a reliever in. They bring in reliever Colin Poche to do some damage, and he ends up facing Michael Conforto, Max Muncy, and Kike Hernandez. Strikes them all three out. Kike Hernandez swinging at a ball over his head. Max Muncy once again looking at a ball in the zone with 2 strikes. You can't do that. You can't take pitches with 2 strikes. You gotta swing the bat with 2 strikes. So at the end of all this, once again, there's not much positive to take from this game. Really, we got to get the bats going. This can't happen again. In my opinion, we weren't even playing baseball at all. We showed up for them to have someone to play against on the field. We didn't even want to show up and play in this game. So, unfortunately, Nats take this game 8-2, and it's a bummer, but, it is what it is. We can't win them all. Let's try to end this on a good note, and we'll head to Game 3 now. So here we are in Game 3. We got Game 3 going. This is a little bit more of a day game, a little bit earlier in the day. This means that the weather may be, a little warmer. It's not going to be super warm. Once again, this series was cold all the way through. Kike, I believe, even played with a hoodie on in this game as well. I could be wrong on that, but I think he had a hoodie on. Of course, we go into Game 3 thinking we're going to get swept on the road. We're only going to have 1 win on the road, or are we going to nut up and really do something this game? And of course, we decided that we were actually going to, show up for this game. We get this game going, and right off the bat, people getting on base. Shohei Ohtani, in fact, with his hit, then sends that on-base streak now to 29 games. So this man is still going pretty strong with that streak and is on fire through the beginning half of the season. So hopefully he stays that way. So he starts that game off, gets that hit. Mookie Betts comes up, gets a walk, and then that leads to Tommy Edman doing what he does best, coming in clutch, hitting that big triple. That was a 2-run RBI. There we go. We finally drew first blood. We finally got on the board early, and we finally got hot right away. So that was beautiful. I love the fact that we came out of the gates hot. We just decided to go after it right. Mookie Betts doing the right thing by not, striking out or not grounding into a double play, but being patient and even getting a walk. A walk does just as good as a single, as you can see. And then our 4th guy, the dude from Seattle, our man that we wanted back so bad this season, comes in hot and hits a 2-run bomb to now make it 4-0 in this game. This is Dodger baseball. This is what we do. Draw first blood. We don't give him 1-2 runs. We give him about 4, and then we go ahead and keep going. Now we've got Landon Knack on the mound for us. Now Landon Knack made his Major League debut at Dodger Stadium April 17, 2024 against none other than C.J. Abrams. C.J. Abrams comes up again April 9th, 2025 with the same result he did the first time they faced off. C.J. Abrams hits a home run in Landon Knack's MLB debut, and of course comes up this at bat and puts one deep into right field. That ball's up, ball's back, ball's fair, ball's out of here. What a hit from C.J. Abrams, but once again, Landon Knack, a rookie that I personally loved from last season, was a huge momentum builder in the World Series. For being a rookie and coming back in the postseason and still doing what he could do was phenomenal last year, but just could not have it in this start that he had. Although we won this game, Landon Knack just did not have it. Another guy leaving the ball up over the heart of the plate, allowing guys to hit the ball far enough for tag-ups, for home runs, for things like that. So one thing's for sure is Landon Knack does need some improvement on location. One thing we know about pitching, you do need to throw to contact, but you want to get ground balls. You want to get pop-ups. You want to get, little dibblers here and there so that way you guys can make plays. You don't want to give them balls over the heart of the plate. You don't want to give up pitches too close to anybody's sweet spot, because that just means that they're going to ride you all game long. Another thing, you cannot walk guys. Walking guys, as you can see from Dustin May, didn't allow a lot of hits, but the minute guys get on, those 1 hits allow 2-3 guys to score, allows more your ERA to go up and things like that. So you got to make sure that we have it on lock in terms of location and where we put the ball. Another positive thing that I can take from this game was the defense. A couple great plays from guys like Mookie Betts. This one play he had at shortstop where he goes a long ways, barely even gets to the ball, and ends up making a solid throw to first base right across the diamond. We all know Mookie to have that strong arm, playing in the outfield. Didn't even look like he was going to get to that ball at all. Made that nice, phenomenal backhand, got the ball over to first base. What a play by Mookie Betts. A lot more positives in this game, as we can see. Definitely seeing that guys' bats are coming alive. We got hot early. So one thing I will say about a negative in this game is after we scored those 4 runs, we went cold for about 5 innings. Jake Irvin held us down for those next 4 innings. Jake Irvin was the starter for the Nationals. So for 4 innings straight, just did not allow anything to happen after that. That is something that we do have to remember, that we can't just lie down after 4 runs. 4 runs is not enough for any team to get by. I mean, if you have 4 runs and vintage Clayton Kershaw on the mound, maybe. You have 4 runs and Nolan Ryan or Greg Maddox on the mound, maybe. But when you got guys like Landon Knack giving up the hits that he is, unfortunately, we need to keep scoring. We need to keep putting runs on the board, because clearly this got pretty close. This got really close, in fact, because it went all the way to a tie ball game twice. We came back, we won it. Great. I love that. But we need to make sure that the bottom half of this lineup is able to come through just as much as the top. Got guys like Ohtani, Betts, Hernandez, Smith, Freddie Freeman. 5 guys I can name right now that have earned their name. They've earned their spot in that top lineup. That bottom half of the lineup keeps juggling around in terms of guys sitting, in terms of guys going out, guys coming back in. Baez getting switched around. You know, Kike has his spot kind of secured right now. The fact that Freddie's gone, he's at first base. But the fact that he can play so many other positions is great. Love Kike for that. But you can't just be Mr. October guy. We need you all season long. We need you for 162. We don't need you for the last 11, 12 games of the postseason. We need you where you're going to develop throughout the season, where you're going to become great throughout the season. Development is always the best thing in baseball, right? You always want to develop and get better. So in my opinion, Kike really needs to work on things now, because 2024 is over, right? We won our World Series. I love us for that, right? We're champions. Was probably the most happiest guy. Was in fact at the Kings game and was yelling like a banshee from the nosebleed sections. I mean, I was going crazy. Love the fact that we won it. But this isn't 2024 anymore, guys. This is now 2025. We're in a new season. We need to start off new. We need to go at this thing the same way we did 2024. But once again, we're not in the World Series anymore. This is the beginning half of 162. But this is where it starts. We need to make sure we stay hot all the way through to the All-Star break and following after that, right? So not our strongest series. Fortunately, Philly wasn't either. And then we decided to go to DC and do this, as we got to do better, obviously. Dodger fans, Dodgers know that we are always in it to win it. We're always there, hungry, ready to fight. We come back, I think, more than any other freaking team in baseball. The amount of walk-offs I've seen in the last 4 or 5 years is insane. All the way from Bellinger to Peterson to Betts to Ohtani to Freeman to the whole 9. All these walk-offs are crazy, right? We love those moments. But let's try to have those moments a little bit more often this season as well. So that concludes that game. We win that one 6-5. Phenomenal way to end the series in terms of going back on a win. That concludes that series for today. We head back to LA now to face Chicago, where we have our Japanese sensation Roki Sasaki taking the mound, and we are having him face Matthew Boyd of the Chicago Cubs, right? This is the start of a 3-game series. We're back in LA. Hopefully that'll give us some momentum, right? To be back in Chavez Ravine, where we love all the micheladas and Dodger dogs and, you know, great foods that we have so far. So really hope that we can come back and take this first game and even the series. Let's try to come back with a sweep, boys, huh? I hope you guys enjoyed the first episode of the Blue Dugout Podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Chris Pacheco, wishing you a great afternoon wherever you may be.